Today, we're diving into one of the most fundamental stories in all of biology. Seriously, it's how we create the two essential halves of a new life. And to really get it, we're going to explore the difference between a high-speed factory and a high-security vault. It's the tale of spermatogenesis and oogenesis, the incredible and incredibly different ways our bodies build sperm and eggs. It all starts right here. Think about it. Every single person you know began as two tiny cells meeting. One of them is this microscopic, relentless traveler, and the other is this huge, stationary treasure chest of life. So the big question is, how does the body use the same basic genetic instruction manual to create two cells with such wildly different jobs?
Okay, so the official, sciencey term for these cells is gametes. You can think of them as messengers, each carrying exactly half of the genetic code, half the chromosomes, needed to build a new person. Understanding these two cells is really the key to understanding how life goes on. So let's get to know them.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to use one central analogy for the whole thing. I want you to think of sperm production as a non-stop 24/7 factory, just pumping out products. And then think of egg production as this super secure, finite vault, where everything inside was stocked a long, long time ago. And this timeline just shows you how crazy different their starting lines are. For females, the process of making eggs, that's oogenesis, actually starts before they're even born. All the potential eggs a person will ever have get made, and then they're just paused, put on hold. Meanwhile, for males, that factory doesn't even switch on until puberty, but once it does, it just keeps running day in and day out for decades.
So yeah, this is the core difference right here. Spermatogenesis is all about continuous, massive-scale production, the factory model. Oogenesis, on the other hand, is about carefully managing a limited, precious resource from that vault, releasing just one in a very careful, cyclical rhythm. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. We're going to the cellular level now to see how this all gets built. Both processes use this really special type of cell division called meiosis to make the gametes. But you guessed it, the way meiosis actually plays out is, again, totally different in the factory versus the vault. So the whole point of meiosis is pretty simple, but it's also profound. You take a cell that has the full set of 46 chromosomes. You shuffle up the genes to create totally unique combinations, that's called crossing over, and then you divide it down until you have cells with just half that number, 23 chromosomes. It's what guarantees we're all genetically unique. Now, in spermatogenesis, our factory, the result of meiosis is just beautifully efficient. One starting cell goes through the process and boom, you get 4 equal, totally functional sperm cells at the end. Simple and effective.
But in oogenesis, it's a completely different story. One starting cell goes through the exact same process of meiosis, and you only get one single functional egg. So, wait a minute, where did the other 3 go?
And this explains it perfectly. It all comes down to those different strategies. The factory, spermatogenesis, divides everything equally, fair shares for everyone. But the vault, oogenesis, is all about conserving resources for the chosen one. During division, it shunts pretty much all of the good stuff, the nutrients, the machinery, all of it, into one single cell. The other little cells, which are called polar bodies, are basically just genetic trash bags that fade away. This whole process guarantees that the one egg that results is absolutely massive and packed with everything it needs to support life if fertilization happens. So all of this leads us to the final products themselves. And let me tell you, the structure of a sperm and an egg are like perfect blueprints, each designed for their completely different missions. They're some of the most specialized cells in the entire body. I mean, just look at the contrast. The sperm is microscopic, built like a torpedo for speed and delivering DNA. The egg, on the other hand, is the single largest cell in the human body. It's totally stationary and is designed to be a complete life support system for the first few days after fertilization. Let's break down the sperm's toolkit, because it's a total marvel of engineering. You've got the acrosome up front. That's a cap full of enzymes designed to dissolve the egg's outer layers. Then there's the midpiece, which is just a power pack crammed with mitochondria to fuel the long swim. And of course, the tail, the flagellum that pushes it forward. Everything else is stripped away. Its only purpose is to find and fertilize that egg. So, we've covered the what and the how, but now we get to the most important question of all. Why? Why do these two processes follow such radically different playbooks? Well, the answer reveals some of the most fundamental strategies of life itself.
This quote just nails it. It captures the essence of this whole thing perfectly. It's a classic evolutionary trade-off, right? The male strategy is to invest in quantity, produce millions of tiny, cheap gametes to maximize the chances that one will hit the target. The female strategy is to invest in quality, produce just a few, large, expensive gametes, where each one represents a massive investment in a potential life.
And these very different strategies, they have really profound consequences. They affect everything from hormonal control, which is pretty stable and continuous in males, but incredibly complex and cyclical in females, to the kinds of genetic risks that are linked with parental age. And that long pause in making eggs, that turns out to be especially important.
So here's how this can play out in the real world. Because those eggs are paused in the middle of meiosis for decades, the cellular machinery that has to pull the chromosomes apart can get a little less reliable over time. This can increase the risk of chromosomal errors, like having an extra chromosome, which is what leads to conditions like Down syndrome. For sperm, which are being churned out constantly, the risk is different. Every time a cell divides to make more sperm, there's a tiny chance for a small copy error, a point mutation, to pop up in the DNA.
And that brings us right back to where we started, the factory and the vault. A strategy of immense quantity versus a strategy of profound quality. And here's the beautiful part. Both are absolutely essential. It's their meeting that sparks a new life. It really makes you wonder, what does this fundamental duality tell us about the deep, elegant, and sometimes risky trade-offs that are built into all of life's designs?